Welcome to the Chase Merrell podcast. I am your host, Chase Merrell, and we are all about helping people get freed up from what's holding them back so they can build up who they were made to be. If you want to help us continue to make an impact with this podcast week in and week out, consider joining our new Patreon community. For as little as a cup of coffee a month, you can be a part of helping us get the message and mission of the podcast out to more people more effectively. This is a way that we can come together as a community, and you'll get access to behind the scenes stuff, additional resources and content, and so much more for just as little as $5 a month. You can head over to chasemerrill.com and click Patreon to jump in and get started. Now let's jump into today's conversation.
Well, here we go. This is a very unique podcast episode of the Chase Merrell podcast. I am here driving in the truck with my friend Dave Ochsner. Welcome to the podcast, Dave.
Thank you.
We are on our way back from a week-long elk hunt in Washington State, and throughout the time had a lot of opportunities to try and maybe figure out different places to have the podcast, but just because we were doing everything we could to get an elk, the 11th hour, this was the best window of us sitting down and having this conversation. And so I think it's cool. I think it's part of the unique but genuine journey of who we both are, but then also, you know, even the podcast itself, that this is cool. I've never done a podcast in the car, and I'm excited that it's with you post hunting.
Yeah.
So welcome, man. You are a part of the 52 Project.
Mm-hmm.
52 conversations with 52 people who have made an impact on my life, and you are one of those 52.
Wow.
And so thanks for saying yes to this, for being willing. One of the things I want to just, for people that are listening and or watching, that they'll just kind of get a window to be introduced to you. The quick snapshot from my seat is getting to know you through church ministry over the years at Living Water 5-6 years ago when we moved up here. But most of the times that we've spent together have been in the woods, hunting and chasing elk primarily, and deer. We'll probably talk a good amount about that on this podcast because of your role in my life over the last 5 or 6 years. I probably have hunted with you more hours and more days and nights than anybody else in my life combined outside of my dad, who's also been a part of some of the hunts. And hunting in the outdoors has been such a huge part of my life. And even on a trip like we're just wrapping up, although coming home with no elk, the success of the trip, which is, yes, the goal of coming home with something is very much so a goal and a desire, but it is not the true and only merit or metric of success. We had a very successful trip for lots of reasons, but you've been a part of a lot of those. And so will you do me a favor? Will you kind of just like give a snapshot for people listening and watching that have no clue who Dave Ochsner is? Just a quick snapshot, who you are, how you're connected, you know, in this season to the people you're connected to, what you're doing, just so people can listen and go, okay, this is who this guy is in Chase's life, just from a snapshot.
As an individual in your life, I think you summed it up pretty well. We've had history for the last 3 or 4 or 5 years in two passions that we both share, and that is the wilderness and elk hunting, deer hunting, and of course our commitment to the Lord.
Yeah.
And so when you've got like-mindedness, individuals around you, you have a tendency to have fun.
Yeah.
We make things fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that's how this has evolved.
Yeah.
And it started out small, and it's now gotten into where we're spending weeks at a time together.
Yeah.
Doing the things in which we enjoy.
Yeah. And you know, when you spend a week with somebody, it's a week, and it's pretty much every not every waking minute, because you know you have moments where you go this way, I go that way, but like it's waking up, it's going to bed, it's all of that stuff that's kind of connected. And so you really get to know somebody when you go hunting, and all that to say, like the fact that you know you can't just do that with anybody. You know, that it does take a special kind of person and a special kind of ability to have that feeling comfortable being yourself and just getting to enjoy, like you said, the stuff we enjoy.
Yeah.
But so, some of the reasons that you're on this is it's not just your elk hunting experience that you bring to the table, which is, something that we'll have to dive into, just some of your experience being a lifelong hunter, but then also a hunting guide for a certain season of your life where you literally dedicated, months at a time to helping other people accomplish their dreams of getting different animals in different ways. But your love for Jesus, your love for your family, like there's just some things about you that the elk world, the respect that I have for you and admiration I have for you in all of the hunting space is high. But even above that, is the commitment to loving Jesus and loving your family that I've watched over the last 5-6 years that I just so admire and respect. And when it comes to being a man, when it comes to being, the man God's called me to be, I look at your life and I go, man, this is a guy that's modeling that in a way that I go, okay, I want to be around, because I see his priorities, and I see his priorities over time, and that consistency and faithfulness. And I go, man, that lines up with not just passions that I enjoy, but it lines up with the kind of man that I want to be. And so that for me is a big reason, kind of, that's a general, but it's a big reason why you're part of this project and have been such a glue part of my life over the last 4 or 5 years. My dad and mom moved up and joined us in Olympia back in 2018, right after we moved up, and then they left us to go to Arizona 2 years ago or so. And pretty big void there for us, obviously based on how much we love my mom and dad have been a part of our lives, but and how much my dad has represented the hunting space and still does. I've been trying to do some trips and stuff, but over the last 2 years, because of some of that distance, we haven't been able to do as much. And this is our first season of not having any hunts scheduled together. And so the other big thing is I think the Lord's really used you in some of a gap filling space for me, for like that kind of that father guy who's there, who's, hey, you could keep going, or like, what are you doing? What are you trying to call right now for? Just be quiet, listen. Or what are you doing with those things that like a dad or a father figure will bring, that are they're difficult to quantify all the time, but they're intangible things. You've really filled, even in the absence of my dad and mom moving away. And so, it's just been a joy, man, when I think about some of the times and what I'd love to do, because I know people listening to the podcast that have been listening over the last, several months as we've been in this since January. I'd love to talk about hunting, and there are some people that are going to listen and they're going to get it, and that's not going to be something they need described to them. And then there are going to be some people that have been listening that'll hear this episode and be like, I don't get it, and I might even have a hard time listening. I just don't, whether it's the hunting world, whether it's killing animals, any of those kind of things that at times for people can be maybe challenging. I'd love to just break down part of why you like love hunting. And it's not just about one thing. There's probably several things, but to share some of that with people listening, I'd love to talk about, because I think for some, I'm not trying to convince anybody. I'm not trying to change anybody's mind, but I do think that there is something out there that if more people could understand the why of what this really means to me, what this really means to you and people like us, that it might help them see something that they haven't been able to see before. So
I think there's a common thread that everybody has. Ours happens to be our passion for hunting in the wilderness.
Yeah.
That time alone, that camaraderie, that uncertainty, the spontaneous, unexpected events that arise, the weighing of the values or the risks in every decision that you make, as well as then the reward.
Yeah.
Of course, a harvest is a reward. A sunrise, a sunset.
A shed.
Yeah, you found a couple wonderful sheds.
No meat, but for those watching, I've got a pretty cool shed here that I'm excited for my boys to be able to.
Yeah, little trophies.
Yeah, keep going. Sorry.
Well, for anyone, and I hope that everyone out there has one of those moments, a few of those moments in their lives regularly, that they find peace, they find God in.
Yeah.
You know, we talked in the middle of the river.
Yeah.
About unplugging, turning off the switch, because it's so hard when you're hunting that you are, especially you at your age, you're a little bird dog. We got to go here, we got to sniff this bush, we got to go call here.
Yeah, for people that don't understand what a bird dog is, will you explain what
a bird dog is that little puppy at your feet that is just constantly pulling on the leash, going somewhere, wanting to go somewhere, even if it's the wrong direction. And so there's a lot of times that I just try to encourage you to, even when we have elk in front of us and you're carrying your bow, to unplug, to take a moment, absorb it, because it's a memory that you'll never get back.
Yeah, right.
A lot of times then the temptation is just to fling an arrow, try to harvest, let's get this over with, and the reality is you're going to learn to live with a lot more value if you just enjoy the moment.
Yeah.
And to what I was trying to get to before is, I hope that there are places that everybody can tap into, and some of them could be at a sewing machine making quilts.
Right.
You and I were talking about a cowboy sitting on top of his favorite horse, overlooking the range, and sees nothing but wild mustangs below him.
Yeah.
So everybody's got a different niche that is a reflection of perhaps what God is trying to speak to them.
Yeah.
Turn off the noise, check out, and remove yourself.
Yeah.
So that you can lose the distractions and hear what God is doing.
Yeah.
Because He's doing something all the time.
Yeah.
And that's what hunting does for us.
There was this, the week we just spent, we had a couple campfire nights, and my buddy Jeff came with us. This was his first experience elk hunting, and so it was so cool to get to have him join us. And around one of the campfire nights, we kind of talked about, he asked that question specifically, what is it about hunting that you love so much? And that kind of opened it up. And you said something I'd love for you to expound on if you could. There was a word you used that I thought was perfect, because there's not a lot of other things that I have experienced or see that although there are other opportunities like we just mentioned, someone's at the sewing machine, some other place or passion that someone finds, that disconnect, but check it, sinks in up, their soul's rejuvenated. But hunting, there is another element that I don't know what else does it like it, and you use the word raw. Just the rawness of what it can you talk a little bit about that? Like when you said that, what did you mean about that being something that you just love about what hunting brings to the table?
Raw to me is getting down to the very foundation of who you are. And it essentially is when you're alone by yourself and only yourself, and there are no distractions. There is no future distractions, meaning this period of time that you're experiencing is not something that is, I've got a half hour, or I've got an hour every morning to spend with God, whatever. This rawness of what hunting is for us is, we know that we've got 3 days, 5 days, a week ahead of us of no distractions from the outside world.
Right.
We are in tune with nature. We are making decisions based upon success and failures. Do you walk across that log across the creek? And are you willing to go into the creek and the consequences of that? Right. There's that genuineness of, and I gave another example of someone who is in a drift boat, for someone who loves to fish, fly fish. You're in a drift boat floating down the Grand Canyon with walls up both sides. It's peaceful, calm water, and you're by yourself. And that is a place that you find God.
Yeah.
I mean, God's creation shouts his name.
Yeah.
If we don't, the rocks will.
Right.
And so it's those kind of raw basics
Yeah.
that I'm trying to tap into and are attuned to. And man, you can hear God a whole lot clearer
Yeah.
in those moments.
Yeah. There is something about that elongated disconnect, like you mentioned. Like you're not just 1 hour in the morning quiet time with the Lord, which is so valuable. Like those daily rhythms that we don't have the ability, nor would we necessarily choose. Although I think there are times I think I would choose. We don't have the ability to be hunting all the time with our lives because of the normal responsibilities of family, work, impact of people, all of the different things that are there. And so those daily rhythms are good, but those times that you can really have that elongated disconnect that hunting has provided for me, part of that, like you're talking about, like I'm from sun up to sundown. There's nothing else that's going to interrupt where I'm at with my ability to come, converse with the Lord, spend time just appreciating and enjoying his creation, while simultaneously all of my senses, we talked about this too, like your five senses are all heightened and attuned in a different kind of way when you're hunting. You're listening more, more intently. You're smelling. I mean, I can't tell you how many times we both were, because we get some elky smell and we're like, okay, they're close. Or
we'd hear the hum of a beehive.
Yeah, bro.
We've both been stung.
Yeah. Oh gosh, those things ripped into us. You're trying to feel the wind. Is the wind blowing my back, my face, like all of that stuff. You're tuned into, and I think that even has overlap into the spiritual sense of like you're tuned into the Lord, what he's saying. And when you do that for over a whole day, 3, 4, 5, I mean, it's special. There's not a lot that taps into that.
Yeah. What the devotional time in the morning is teaching you to hear the whisper of God.
It's good.
And to recognize it, so that when you are alone for 4 or 5 days, like we are, and truly, we are not doing a Bible study 24 hours a day while we're elk hunting.
No.
We're mentioning God's name often, very often.
Yeah.
It probably a lot of times for you, it's in prayer. Please let me harvest, Lord. Please let me harvest.
Please let me find an elk. Please let me shoot this arrow true.
It's putting in tune to what your homework of doing devotions and listening to God's, and you've learned how his whisper, soft voices, and his whisper in the wilderness with the stars out and the campfire is more like a shout.
It's so true.
Because of the distractions are removed once again, and it could come easily through someone on the other side of that campfire speaking into your life. It could come from so many things that we take for granted, from the trickling of a stream and the breeze brushing the side of your face.
Yeah.
They're just little kisses from God, and you're more apt to find that in the wilderness.
Yeah. The other piece that I realize is, you mentioned raw being part of that. There's nobody to impress.
Amen.
There's nobody to prove anything to out there. Like it's you and you. Like there's and even the like what I've been learning as I've been hunting over the years, but even what this last week helped me see, that raw side of like what am I made of here? Like will I give up when I'm disappointed that I missed the shot? Will I go back to camp and be like, that's it, or I blow a stock, or the wind changes and they pick up our scent and it busts him, or whatever it could be. And those limits, like the rawness of the unknown, like something I love about hunting, again, that nothing else in this life so far has showed me, although there are everyday's unknowns that are out there in the day-to-day, but this kind of unknown of like, you can prepare as best as you can, come up with the best strategy, have the best gear, be in the best physical shape of your life so that you are as prepared as you possibly can be.
Yeah.
And even with all of that, you cannot guarantee the outcome or what's going to happen. There's these unknowns to every single corner that you go around while you're hunting that creates this anticipation and excitement, and at times valley and mountaintop, metaphorically and practically, for you to go, okay, how do we adjust? What do we do here? You know, and there's nobody that's going to hand this thing to me with, you know, on a silver platter of this is what you do. You got to kind of make those decisions.
You're learning on the fly.
You're learning on the fly. You're having to adjust, change plan A because it got blown, and now you got to move to B or C. And sometimes you haven't even thought about B or C, but you got to come up with it. And but the opportunity of the unknown, I love that I'm not playing a complete checkers game out there. That is just, there's a certain amount of moves you can make, and then that's it.
You find out what you're made out of very quickly.
Yeah.
It's not for everybody.
No, no, it's not.
You're walking with a headlight in the dark 3 miles back from camp, and you're all alone.
Yeah.
And there are noises out there that are amplified
for sure
by what you fed into prior to your life, right?
For sure.
I mean, if you're watching horror movies,
right,
your mind goes there.
Right.
It's in your spirit.
Right.
And a cougar in the middle of the night screaming, it's eerie no matter what you've watched.
Right.
For entertainment. So
yeah.
But you tap into areas of your life that you had no idea you were capable of.
That's it.
And you push through those walls. There are endless disappointments from the time that you leave camp on how the wrong elk call shut all the bugles up and the herd ran from you.
Yeah.
And you're like, that was probably the wrong call to make at that time.
Right.
And so I've got to go find, for the next 3 hours, another herd. And so there's a learning curve in this process. And it's been fun to be able to be a part of your juvenile season.
Yeah.
In exposing you to the ways of how elk patterns themselves. And you've come a long ways. Your bugle is awesome, and cow calls. And
they're getting there. I appreciate that.
You're doing well.
Yeah. I mean, and when I think about, I came up to Washington, have never truly elk hunted with my own elk tag in my pocket until a year after we moved here. And, you know, this is my fifth season attempting to get. I have yet to get an elk down. I've gotten several deer, a couple mule deer, a couple blacktail, but I've never gotten an elk down. And this was specifically a cow tag I had this year, and I technically still have 3 or 4 days in November to try to finish the job. But I had a few opportunities to make it happen over the last 5 days, and I blew them. Basically, there's no other way to say it. Missed the shot, and
a lot of things have to go right in order for you to be successful.
Yeah,
and a huge participation on the elk side.
For sure. For people that don't understand hunting, it's definitely one of the things that I'd love to help people understand better, which is
archery elk.
It's archery elk hunting is so hard. Archery hunting is hard, but archery hunting is another level of hard. And then archery elk hunting, man, there's just, like you said, so many things have to go right for there to be an elk down by the end of that attempt. And yet I got closer than I ever have in the last 5 seasons.
And you spend all day in elk.
Yeah.
They were screaming at you all day long. So when you can manipulate an animal with a little reed or a bugle tube, especially in this season called the rut, there's something special about that.
Yeah, there is.
When you can make another animal 3 miles away or 2 miles away, 300 yards away, come to you and want to play big bull, little bull, it's pretty special.
Oh, yeah. And you just, I mean, I was constantly the last 5 days in awe. I mean, I being around bulls that were bugling, ripping at each other because of the territorial rut going on. You're not going to take, my cows from me, and I'm going to take your cows from you. And so I was right in the middle of watching these bulls fight, rub trees and rake trees and run at each other. I have never been in elk every day like I have been on this hunt. Now, I didn't have a bull tag. I probably could have taken a bull 4 or 5 times because I really could. I had that close, but who knows? But either way, and I think for us too, for my family, my wife didn't grow up hunting and has watched me since we've been dating, 12, 13 years of dating / marriage, be borderline obsessive with hunting.
You got the bug.
Yeah, the bug has only gotten worse throughout the years. And but what I recognize is, the meat for us is what's gold. These antlers are great. I mean, that's a great thing to find. And don't get me wrong, I love getting a big deer or a big elk if that's an option. But for us, it's the biggest reason, for us to be able to go to provide organic meat for our family. Like our boys eat it, our girls eat it, Holly eats it, and it's a pretty significant thing for us to be able to bring home and provide food. Probably the highest quality protein that you can provide for protein per ounce, grams of protein per ounce in the organic world.
Well, there's cheaper ways.
Well, yes,
way
but
cheaper.
Knowing, there's something about knowing the entire process, right? You see it, you shoot it, you kill it, you field dress it, you transport that meat to its place of storage, whether you're eating it right away or you're doing vacuum seal and freezer. And now that although yes, there are cheaper ways, absolutely. I have yet to find a more fulfilling and rewarding way, as well as, like when you do get something, if let's say I were to harvest a couple 100 pounds of elk meat, that's significant. That's significant. Being able to bring home for the year. And so, that's a big why for us. And I think it's important that people know, like, it's, for me, I'm not in the trophy hunting game, and yet I don't hate on the world of, like, man, being able to appreciate an animal and its majestic, antler size or whatever else. Like that's awesome. But I know I'm okay getting a cow tag because that meat is precious gold, for us and our family. One of the other pieces that I want to help people see, and when I think about the way that hunting has made an impact on my life, is the way that it does pull you out of all of the distractions. And what I find myself longing for at the end of a week of hunting, for me, in this season, is it's like every day that passes, it's like the stuff that doesn't matter in my life kind of just slowly gets filtered out. And right now, I'm day 6 away from my family. And the last 24 to 48 hours or so, all I've really thought about outside of being present in hunting, that's another thing I'll have to talk about, just the present, being as, present when you're there. All that I've thought about is my wife and my kids, and being home and being a better dad and a better husband. And when I get back, just figuring out more ways that I can be more engaged and more present with them, and more connected to where they are and what they're doing. And although I can't wait to get back out into the elk woods or whatever else, what I have left, quote unquote, home, the stuff I miss from leaving home isn't anything to do with my job when I love my job. I love being a pastor. I love my calling in ministry. I love the people at our church, which you've been a part of as well. Don't get me wrong. They mean a lot to me, but they don't mean as much to me as my wife and my kids. And I find myself going, like, if that's just the stuff that matters most, it just gets pulled to the surface. Every day I'm out there, the longer I'm there, I find it, being pulled to the surface more. And I love that about hunting. I love that as I'm out there, there's moments when I am completely by myself, and I feel this, like, Holy Spirit nudge of just like, hey,
reprioritize.
Yeah, making sure you do some soul inventory.
Yeah.
Do some priority inventory with your life, and Chase, think about how amazing it is that you have a wife who is saying, yes, go for a week, because I know how much it's going to rejuvenate your soul and your mind to be healthy for your life, and how much you love this. And please try to get us some meat, but go. I give you my blessing to go, and I'll take care of the kids, for 5-6 days while you're gone. Man, I'm grateful for that. Like I think about that when I'm in those moments and going like, that's a blessing. Thank you, Lord, for that gift.
I also think there's a surrendering to God's will and the uncertainty of it.
Yeah.
Even when we're out hunting,
Yeah.
we'll look across the valley at another ridge and we'll think, oh, if I was only over there.
Right.
And I knew if I was over there, I would want to be over here.
Right. Totally.
And that's exactly the way we're living every day of the week,
Yeah.
Monday through Friday.
It's so true.
And that's sort of what I was hoping to talk with you this last 6 days is live in the moment. It doesn't matter if you live over there. The grass isn't any greener.
Yeah.
Or live in here. Make the most out of where you're at right now. And we had those moments.
We did.
We were able to unplug even from the challenge of why we were there to harvest. What could I be doing different and better in order to make our success?
Yeah. Yeah.
And our success was not gauged by necessarily a harvest.
Right. No, for sure.
And that's the hard part for other people to understand when you're starting to share these stories when you get back into town and get plugged back into your workplaces. The first question is did you harvest?
Right. Did you get an elk?
No, but let me tell you about the sunrise I saw,
Yeah.
or the 30 goats on the side of Mount
Yeah.
St. Helens.
Yeah.
Feeding across there. Those moments are so undescribable for an individual who hasn't experienced them.
Yeah.
And those are just treasures you'll have to hold on to yourself.
Yeah.
Until they themselves have experienced.
Yeah. There 2 years ago we went on an elk hunt that was in Washington, Western Washington as well. And I'll never forget, it was opening day, and we had a few different bugles that we had kind of been chasing, and there was one time we finally got close to where those bugles were happening, and you were able to see two bulls kind of I don't know if they were fighting yet or what, but they were around each other up on this ridge, and I was so focused about being ready to make a shot. Again, this is my first time really even getting that close, and I'm trying to get my rangefinder out because I don't want to mess up the yardage and all these different things. And I'll never forget, you basically, and this happened multiple times this last week as well, but this was the first time it really happened with you and I to this point. And you said, put it down, put your bow down, put your rangefinder away. Just watch this. Like just look at it and soak it in. You're going to have these memories longer than you will if you try to get your focus on your bow. The elk are going to be gone. And it didn't click for me then, but that was the first point I remember you really saying it that stuck out. And over this last week, we had more of those moments where I totally got it. And it really clicked after I missed my first 2 shots after we had waited all day, and you had a couple of those moments with me during the day. Hey, just close your eyes. Hey, are you in the moment? Are you feeling it right now? And then I missed, and then later the rest of the day I went after. I think it was that night. I don't know. I went after out by myself, and I ended up getting into some of the craziest elk action I've ever experienced. And all I could do was just watch. I didn't really have any shot opportunities, and it all hit me. And I think about the trip. It was the moments that I was most present for, to just enjoy being there, watching. Wow. And listening to what was happening.
You just described parenting. at its finest.
Totally.
Where you're not in the moment, you're thinking about the conduct of your child and how you can improve on it and everything. And the reality is some of the best parents, although there are boundaries set and moral values and teached, but being present in their lives, in your family's life, is probably the best gift you'll ever give them. And that's the most enjoyable, because once your kids leave, right, all you have are those moments. It's not about what you bought for them and all of the things that go with raising children. It's stopping the hands of time for just 30 seconds, just 5 minutes. If it's 15 minutes just before you go to bed with the kids, read them a book and make a tradition. And it's something that I've enjoyed with my kids, passing down my passion. And it doesn't always stick. I've got 5 kids, and not all of them are interested in hunting.
Sure.
That's fine.
Sure.
Find what you enjoy. Find God in it, and make it successful. Because your time here is short. All you have is today.
Yeah, so good. Well, I could talk about hunting forever. And from stories to just different things about it. But I know for me, when I think about my journey, it has become a milestone, monument kind of event that every time I go, whether it's for a day or for a week, it is that place where I recognize there's been so many times with the Lord out there, or overcoming something, of learning about more of who I am, that what I'm made of or whatever, that has contributed to the man I bring back off the mountain, and the Lord's been in that, and who I've become. One of the things that this podcast is all about is the why of the whole podcast project is to help people get freed up from what's holding them back, so they can build up who they were made to be. Like, that's the why of the podcast: freed up to build up. Every episode, every guest, I've asked this question. And it's be cool to just hear different things. There's so many common threads, but then there's different things too. But I'd love to ask you, and it's basically, what's something in your life that you can recognize over the course of your life, maybe even present, that you have overcome, that was holding you back, that you've found a way to overcome to be who you were made to be. Past or present. Maybe you're overcoming now. I mean, something in that boat that you would say, this is something that held me back, that I'm freed up from now, and I am, I've watched become who I was made to be.
I would have to say the resistance of an individual in your life who doesn't believe in you as much as God does. It can be a father figure, it can be a parent, it can be a grandparent, but someone's opinion of you that you value so much, and then they are not necessarily seeing what God sees in you and the value. I had a father who didn't speak words of life, let's put it that way. And when I accepted Christ at 11 years old, I found my identity in him. And ever since then, I've walked out what he believes I am. And he has a plan for my life. He's proven it many, many different times.
Sure.
And the way in which he has proven that plan hasn't been fully lived out. But it was a little area of tension between my father and I, because he would speak death over me, or his value system of me. And I would throw it right back and say, listen, those words are not who God says I am.
Yeah.
At 11 and 12 years old.
Yeah.
And he got pushback and resistance. And because of that, I've been able to be not arrogant, but just secured in who I am.
Confident.
Confidence is a good word.
Yeah. That's
so. I mean that. And that's a long time between 11 and 17 until you're off to college stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
For that. But I truly believe that he was affected by that positive influence, because he also knew Christ.
Yeah.
He just didn't know how to live that out in a positive way that influenced his children.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I'd have to say the resistance of someone who doesn't see your value.
Yeah, it's really good. And there's so many people, that's where a lot of people find themselves in this point in their life, whether it's present or there's maybe a past person, figure, position that has had that same kind of impact in a negative way. And so I appreciate you sharing that. I think that's right on the money.
Yeah.
And nobody's immune from it.
Oh no.
You know what I mean? Like you could
spouses.
You could have a lot
bosses.
of great people, in your life that speak life, but they're nobody's completely immune from somebody somewhere having the ability to have that kind of impact. So, well, man, I'm just super grateful for you. For me, when I think about anything that has to do with hunting, there are two people that I go, I get a picture on a trail cam of an animal, an elk or deer or something, or I get just something, a new gear, anything. Like there's two people that I immediately think about, who do I want to share this joy with? And it's my dad.
No, it was me. It was me first.
And it's you.
Sorry, Larry.
Move back from Arizona, Dad, and maybe we can move the order around. Just kidding. But because it'll be out of nowhere. Like I'll be sermon prepping and man, something comes up and maybe we haven't talked in a month or something, and I'm like, I gotta text Dave this, and
sending you a big bull picture.
Totally,
I've got
and I think about that, and I think about how it connects back to things like we just got to experience this last week, and what a gift that is in my life when I think about, man, when this whole thing's all wrapped up, when eternity's being crossed into and we're leaving behind the temporary experience that we all have here on earth, and I have the ability to look at all the stuff that mattered. That's gonna be the kind of stuff that stands out. It's that relationship piece of man, I just spent 5-6 days of incredible time with this guy out in the woods chasing elk. And again, nobody will fully get that unless they're there, and able to experience some of those things. But
well, I love your heart.
Well,
you've got a Philippians 2, think of others higher than yourself, and their needs and their wants and their passions and desires, and that's some of the aspects that you demonstrate outside of your call as a minister and pastor. You are just a genuine individual through and through, you and Holly and your family. So you're easy to lead if I'm leading.
Yeah,
let's put it that way.
Well, I appreciate that a lot, man. You and your family are near and dear to our hearts, and man,
awesome.
Thankful that we get the opportunity to continue a relationship for the foreseeable future. And even if one of us one day ends up in Idaho or something like that, I know we'll figure out our way to get back out in the woods together, which I'm really, really thankful for. So, man, with that, thanks for this last week.
Yep.
Thanks for all of the times that you've been there to walk with me in the woods and help me retrieve animals and find them in the first place, and to many more hunting days and trips hopefully ahead. But beyond that, the kingdom impact that you've had in my life as well, man, I pray and I know it'll continue. So thank
awesome.
you, love you, and until next time, everybody, thanks for watching, thanks for listening. We'll see you later.